All right. I don't know if Emory Hunt at Football Game Plan is an ABBA fan, but I am, and I'm going to make him listen to it today. Welcome back to the show. We are always happy to have you here with us. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Emory Hunt at Football Game Plan, the most insightful individual, I think, of so many people producing draft content. There is nobody whose depth of knowledge is greater than this particular man who is appearing on our screen and who you are going to hear on your radio right now. Hey, bud.
What's good, man? How you doing? Appreciate you bringing me on.
Always a pleasure to see you. Between, Combine and all the other offseason things, Senior Bowl from time to time, we don't get to catch up enough. For you, what is the draft? We've talked about the draft process before in your various visits with us, but just the extent of the work that you do and the way that you make it such routine knowledge for everybody after the fact, Emory. I hear people rattling off stats about two-lane wide receivers 30 seconds after the fact, like they knew about Jaquan Jackson the entire time because they're reading Football Game Plan or one of the other draft resources from guys like you who are doing that kind of work. Just how deep do you go to make sure that you get those and Tulane's a group of 5. It's not like that's some kind of unknown commodity. What's your process been like to kind of make sure that you have a grasp on all these day 3 picks?
That's a great question, Buck, and I appreciate you asking me that because I'm probably one of the few, if not the only, draft analyst that goes to all 9 All-Star games. So I am at literally all 9 All-Star postseason All-Star games, and it starts in May. So my process for 2025 is actually starting next week when I head up to Canada for the U Sports East-West Bowl. So that gets my process started every cycle, and then I make my trek to the FCS Bowl in December. Then subsequently in January, the Hula, College Gridiron Showcase, Tropical Bowl, Shrine Game, HBCU Legacy Bowl, and Senior Bowl. So I'm at all of these things, gathering intel, scouting prospects live. Then I dive back into the film once I get done with all the All-Star Game travels and break down what I've seen live in conjunction with what I've seen on film. And that's how you get the largest draft guide in existence put out there every year. This year we had over 900 individual prospects.
900, Emory. 900.
But think about that. And here's the thing. And I put out my first digital guide in 2020. Before that, everything was going on my YouTube channel. So if you're a loyal purchaser of the guide since 2020, right now, Buck, you would have over 4,300 individual scouting reports at your fingertips.
It's wild. At F-Ball Game Plan is where you can follow Emory Hunt. On Twitter, you can also watch him on CBS Sports HQ. He makes appearances on Sportsline as well, youtube.com/Football Game Plan. So in particular, now that we're in this world of name, image, and likeness and the impact transfer portal, all these different things that allow collegiate players to maximize their financial situation potentially and also incentivize many of them to stay in college. How has that kind of impacted the way that you go about this with the way that we've seen the bottom of the draft or really the belly of the draft kind of thin out a little bit?
Man, it really does affect my process because before NIL, before COVID, you knew if a guy on a roster was a senior, he was a legit senior. Since COVID, you may have a senior listed on the roster, but he got like 5 years left of eligibility. It's crazy, right? So you get like a bunch of different things. Just for instance, I want to say I had like 25 quarterbacks graded for 2024 that I already had to push to 2025 because they went back to school. And these were guys that were listed as seniors on their profile, or you thought that their eligibility was up. So I'm glad we're getting back to, I think this is the last year we'll see COVID guys. There's still a few 2020 guys still in college right now. But if you started college in 2021, if you're a senior, this is your last go around. So I'm glad we're getting back to seniors, meaning seniors, which means we should get a better gauge of who's available in the draft projecting forward.
And Emory, when it comes to the prospects coming out of that NIL world, we heard Rand Carthon talk about how that's part of the Titans process and talking to players about that. But what about the prospects themselves? Are they having to kind of prepare for those conversations with teams, questions about how they handled things like NIL and the transfer portal?
Yeah, and a lot of times when you are thinking about, I want this exposure, it puts you out there to get exposed, right? So what I'm saying is you have now to you've introduced yourself to this this area, this world of NIL. So on the other side of that, now you got to explain how, which deals you took and what did you do with the money, even though it shouldn't matter, or how did that change you? Did it affect your performance? And so now you've introduced yourself, you open the floor for more questions. But on the other side of that, the third side of things is that it's forcing guys, not really forcing guys, but guys are staying in college a little bit longer. So it should help you out on the back end, get a more mature player, a more ready to go player, and a guy that's going to, have a little bit more experience underneath his belt to where he can handle the pro game.
Emory Hunt here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So, draft grades are always a thing. I don't know how you view them. I don't know how seriously you take them. And I know there's some really credible people that do take the time to make sure that they study and look at their evaluations and kind of come up with their own system. How do you go about evaluating teams in the immediate, or do you even do that, given that it's typically a 3 to 4 year process for us to really find out about how these players are going to translate?
Well, when I used to put them out on my YouTube channel, what I would do is wait until rookie mini camps are over, because my grades include the undrafted free agents.
Right.
So that's a part of the draft class. And a lot of guys, you may have rookie tryout guys that are at the rookie mini camps that may end up getting signed. You may have them add more undrafted free agents after rookie mini camp. So that's why I always waited, because one, you want to make sure you include that undrafted class, and two, all 6,000 people that write about draft grades and put them out at the same time. So here I was, put mine out 2 weeks later, and I got maximum, viewership on my grades, and also they included undrafted free agents. So you kind of give people a well-rounded look on how they go. Because again, we know the undrafted free agents tend to make an impact on the roster. Those that make it through the 53 and onto a game day roster, and that's important to include in the grade, because undrafted free agents are a part of the draft strategy. Teams start reaching out to guys in the 4th round saying, hey, if you don't get drafted, we want you on our team, and blah, blah, blah. So why not include them in the draft grade?
Titans haven't officially announced their UDFA signings just yet, but we do have a lot of reported ones out there. We'll get to those with Emory here in just a second. But with the 7 guys that they added from J.C. Latham down the line, what did you kind of make? What did you learn about the new Titans coaching staff and front office from the draft class that they put together, given that we're getting ready to go through a bit of a philosophical shift around here?
Well, it's about building inside out. And I've said this before, the closer you are to the ball, the stronger you have to be and the more important you are. So I know everybody puts an emphasis on, tackles and, receivers or whatnot, but your center, guards, and your D tackles, your Mike backer, your free safety, quarterback, and running back, they better be some of your best players on the team. Because if you're strong right down the middle, you're going to be a good football team. And I felt like the Titans really emphasized, I know they picked J.C. Latham, which is a very good pick, plug-and-play guy, but they emphasized point of attack play. Obviously with Latham being a tackle, but a very good offensive lineman. You see Sweat going in round 2 up front on the interior, as well as Cedric Gray. Big fan of him, linebacker out of North Carolina. So it shows you where the emphasis was. You're getting stronger in your battery. And I was also a big fan of Jarvis Brownlee as well, because again, you want dudes that look like they like fighting, man. And Brownlee is a dog. And I'm a big fan of what he brings to the table. And he's been well coached in college as well, too, by Coach Ellis, who has coached Travarius Ward at Middle Tennessee State, has coached guys at other places at East Carolina. Jaquan McMillan, another one that's been thriving, was a late round pick or undrafted guy that's been thriving. Ward was the same way, and now we see him produce Brownlee. So if Coach Ellis put a stamp of approval on it, I'm with it.
This is why Emory Hunt's the best. He does the research to make sure that he knows as much about these prospects as humanly possible. So let's just stick with Latham for a moment. Obviously, because, Emory, you know the protection issues the Titans have had. You know how important that is for Will Levis to have a chance to succeed at the NFL level. You've already got Dane Brugler mocking Carson Beck to the Titans second overall next year as a little added fuel to the fire, I guess. And there's just been a little bit of hand-wringing about the idea of plug and play for a guy that was a right tackle at Alabama, that we know practiced left tackle while he was at Alabama, that we know was a left tackle coming out of IMG Academy that produces some of the best prospects in the collegiate game and that go on to be pros. So why is it a plug and play situation to you, Matt? Not to call out Matt Miller specifically, but he was literally just on our morning show kind of talking about the idea of Latham at best as a right tackle and potentially as an interior player.
Well, when you're drafting a talent that high, and it's an elite talent, the elite talent will figure it out. And that's the difference. You know, it's not a developmental guy that, hey, maybe his best chance to succeed is only on this side. When you're picking linemen this high, and I felt like there were 5 elite linemen. I had 5 linemen, I believe, or 6 linemen that had 80 or above grades in my draft guide. Latham was one of them. So to me, if you wanted to throw him at center, I would have been cool with it because he has elite talent. And all you worrying about left side or right side is technical issues, footwork and just getting used to being set at a certain way, but you're never worried about the talent. So as long as it's a top 10 talent or top 15 talent, you'll be fine. I think he'll be fine on the left side.
Emory, of the day 3 picks from the Titans, and you mentioned a couple of them, of linebacker Cedric Gray, corner Jarvis Brownlee, receiver Jaquan Jackson, safety James Williams, and edge rusher Jalen Harrell, which of those guys do you feel, setting aside need and opportunity within the Titans roster, which of those guys do you feel is most pro-ready day one, and which one do you feel maybe will have the longest path forward?
And just for your clarification, Emory, James Williams is going to be a linebacker here. They're not playing him at safety at all. They told him that out the gate.
Well, I like Gray. I feel like Gray could be a plug-and-play guy right away. Underrated player at Mike Backer. He's a thumper. You know, he sees the game rather well, gets through the trash rather well, plays downhill. I think he's a starter on day 3. And Brownlee, people forget that he missed some time this year with injury. I know Titans fans don't hear about cornerbacks with injury, but he missed some time early in the season with injury, got back later in the year, played really well, then went down to Mobile and just balled out of control at the Senior Bowl. He has great cover skills, top-tier ball skills, a very good open field tackler, and he's another one on defense that I feel like can make an immediate impact on year one.
Do you have a favorite UDFA or one whose film that you particularly enjoyed watching or scouting in the process? We've got a couple of different names here, some familiar faces, obviously, in the state of Tennessee, whether that's Gabe Judy Lally or Jabari Small, any of the other prospects in particular, maybe not from Power 5 or Group of 5 programs that you found particularly intriguing at the next level.
Well, you know, Western Carolina had a fantastic postseason because they had a bunch of guys that were at these smaller all-star games that balled out. Rod Gaddison out at the FCS Bowl balled out, got the call up to the Tropical Bowl, and more than held his own that week as well, too. So this is someone that's 6 feet, about 190 pounds, can play press, can match up one-on-one, good athleticism. And again, when you're starring in 2 separate all-star games, that shows out in the postseason. This is a situation where Tennessee last year drafted a guy that I talked about in the 7th round that was balling out at the College Gridiron Showcase. So I know the Titans do a great job of scouting the smaller all-star games. And that's Colton Dowell, who stood out at the College Gridiron Showcase. Wide receiver, was picked in the 7th round. They love him down there in Tennessee. And keep an eye on this name. I saw he signed, some say undrafted free agent, some say rookie minicamp, but I'm intrigued by him because I felt like he was a really good running back, and that's Jordan Terrell out of Barton College. When I called him the Division II Nick Chubb, because he had a 400-yard game this year. He just was just ripping off long runs. He was carrying the ball 20 to 25 times a game. He's a 460-pound squatter, I think close to 500-pound squatter. Ran 4.5 at his pro day, jumped 10 feet in the broad jump, and just a fantastic, well put together athlete. I think he's like 5'9", 5'9.5", 210 pounds. But again, a 400-yard rushing game this past season in the rain, no less. And he's someone I think, even though it's hard for his style of back to stand out at a rookie minicamp with no pads, but I hope he gets through the process and goes through the training camp. I feel like Gaddison is someone that stood out initially right out of the bat because I seen him live play, and also Jordan Terrell, the running back out of Barton College.
Titans brought in a couple reportedly. Go ahead. Sorry, Emory.
I was about to say Mason Kinsey is already about, so clearly there's some lineage there with Barton College guys on the roster.
D3 legend Mason Kinsey continuing. I mean, he could survive the zombie apocalypse at this point. He's lasted through so many GMs and coaches.
Also, a couple UDFAs reportedly from Power 5 schools at running back, right? With Dylan Johnson out of Washington and then Jabari Small out of Tennessee. What do you like about those guys? And specifically on Dylan Johnson, who was one of the stars of college football last year. Why do you think he ended up not hearing his name called over the weekend, which I think would surprise a lot of college football fans after watching him play for Washington?
I think he had a lot of medical issues. It was foot issues or, ankle issues. So that kind of pushed him down the board. You just want to see him check out medically and be 100%. So I think that's why he kind of fell out of the draft. And Small is someone that, was kind of part of a really good tandem at Tennessee. He has some quickness, some speed, not as fast as his teammate that ended up getting drafted by the Dolphins in Wright. But Small is someone that definitely come in. But when you look at their depth chart, I feel like they have a bunch of the same guys, right? So it clearly shows a type. Dylan Johnson would be more of your two-down guy, while Small could be a guy that fits in with Spears and what you're getting out of, Tony Pollard. And the guy I mentioned, Jordan Terrell, is cut from the same cloth as Julius Chestnut. So, they have a type, and they kind of circle the wagon on those players.
Are you an Eric Garror stan, given your Raging Cajuns gear behind you? What do you? I mean, in all seriousness, he did well to kind of latch on at the bottom of the roster, and practice squad guy up and down for a couple of moments. And you mentioned the Titans fans just cringing at the words injury and corner in the same sentence. Obviously, Eric Garror a part of that last year. How did he fare to you in his first NFL season? If you got the opportunity to watch much of him.
It was pretty fun to watch because, again, this was another guy that stood out of the smaller all-star game. And I want people to stress, inspect what you expect. So the reason why I can rattle off these smaller all-star games because I was there, and I was there by myself. So that's how you get to see all these guys and see these guys perform. But Garrett's core special teams candidate, ideal player to play on special teams. You want him to stay healthy, obviously, but he has terrific ball skills, good instincts, and if you have ball skills, I would, I am always willing to gamble on those guys because there's two things in football. Can you score? Can you take the ball away? And he can definitely do both once he has the ball in his hand. So I thought he did well for his first year. Just got to stay healthy this upcoming season.
Where are you going on vacation after rookie minicamp?
Vacation. I told you I was going up to Waterloo, Ontario, to start my 2000. I'll get some vacation up there in Canada, so that's how you stay ahead of the curve.
They got a beach in Canada? You got to go to British Columbia? What's the deal? I'm not familiar with the logistics. Emory Hunt at F-Ball Game Plan, Football Game Plan, an incredible resource. Now that we're into the UDFA part, the tryout part, there are so many different players that Emory spends very, very detailed time studying to make sure that you can find out more about them. Thank you, buddy. I always appreciate the insight.
Appreciate you guys for having me on.
That's Emory Hunt with us on 104.5 The Zone. You can check him out on YouTube as well. 615-737-1045. We'll get to more of your phone calls. Titans bringing Tyler Boyd in for a visit. What does it mean for the rest of the wide receiver core? And also, everyone's mad at Dion. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.